What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to Lil Jitsu. So, you just got your blue belt, and if you are a somewhat goal-oriented individual, you may now be wondering, how long is it going to take to get your purple belt? That's a great question, and that's the question I'm going to answer in today's video. If you watched one of my previous videos on how long it takes to get your blue belt, some of this information may or may not be new to you, but you should find it useful nevertheless. So the first thing I'll get started by saying is the IBJJF states that the minimum time requirement to be a blue belt is 2 years. And that, fun fact, is actually the longest minimum time requirement for any of the belts. It does say that this is a minimum standard created by the IBJJF, so your coach doesn't need to follow it, but if you want to compete in IBJJF events, you need to have been a blue belt for 2 years before getting your purple belt to be eligible to compete as a purple belt in those tournaments. So, worth knowing. Now, how long is it going to take you to get your purple belt after being promoted to blue belt? Again, the simple answer is it entirely depends on how often you train, how good you get, and how well you're doing in competition. That's the simple answer. But I'm sure you're here to get some kind of standard reference time point to give you a certain expectation. So, we'll go ahead and talk about that. Personally, it took me, I got my blue belt November of 2016, and my purple belt I got in, December of 2018. So for me, it took me about 2 years and 1 month. Keep in mind, I competed probably 8 or 10 times as a blue belt, and I was also training. Blue belt was probably the time period in which I trained the most. I was training 5 days a week, sometimes 2 times a day, and honestly more than 5 times a lot of weeks. So I was training a lot, going to every fundamentals and advanced class, doing morning classes when I could, and every open mat that was available to me. So I was training a lot, and I was competing. So by competing, I was able to give my coach a very easy reference point to where I stood as a blue belt. So for me, it took me about 2 years and a month. I didn't take any breaks during that time as well, so consistency is king when you're trying to get promoted quickly. As a side note, getting promoted quickly shouldn't be your main goal in jiu-jitsu because really it doesn't matter. The belts don't matter, and everybody's going to say that, even though, you know, it's cool to be a black belt and stuff, but the belts don't matter. The belts are just an indicator of progress and skill and knowledge. As long as you're showing up, you're getting better. So there's a little side note for you. That being said, on average, blue belt by far is the longest time that most people spend in their jiu-jitsu career. That's the longest belt. You've also heard that blue belts are the most likely to quit as well. There's no real statistics out there as far as the length of time or the averages for how long it takes to get to how long a blue belt is a blue belt until they get promoted. But personally, in my experience, it seems like it's generally between 3 to 4 to 5 years of being a blue belt before they get their purple belt. Blue belt, you kind of get tested based on your knowledge or your ability to demonstrate the fundamental techniques of jiu-jitsu. That doesn't necessarily mean you can apply them in rounds every time, but you're able to demonstrate that knowledge on a non-resisting opponent. By the end of blue belt and getting into purple belt, you should be developing your own brand of jiu-jitsu, your own style. You've learned your favorite positions, you're starting to understand those positions better, and you probably got a few techniques that are purple brown belt level because you've been using them so frequently. The standards to get a purple belt aren't nearly as clear-cut, in my opinion, as getting a blue belt. It's not just knowledge-based. You should obviously have a good grasp of the fundamentals, but you also have to have an A game that you can rely on when rolling with pretty much anyone in the gym. So I would say, in a short answer, in my experience, the average time it takes to get your purple belt after being promoted, if you train consistently, is between 3 to 5 years. You can speed that process up by competing, by training more frequently, and by training with purpose. You guys can watch the video on how to increase the efficiency of your training if you're interested more in that. But most likely, you're going to be somewhere between the 3 to 5 year range, and that's fine. Jiu-jitsu is a long journey. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's all about learning and developing the skills. As long as you continue to enjoy it, it doesn't matter what belt you are. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found this information useful in some way. I know I haven't posted very much in the last few weeks. I've taken some losses in my recent tournaments, so I haven't had as much content. I am going to do a commentary on one of my losses against Chris Lencioni. But Regardless, I'm going to post more. I appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of the channel. If you're not already subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. Like the video if you found this useful, and hit the bell notification to be notified when new videos post. Feel free to follow me on Instagram as well if you're inclined to do so. It's at @little_jitsu. Appreciate you guys. As always, stay consistent. Go train.